For decades, audiences believed the voyages of the Starship Enterprise were about unity, friendship, and courage. But behind the polished episodes of Star Trek, tensions boiled, egos clashed, and tempers sometimes pushed the cast to breaking point. At the center of both triumph and turmoil stood William Shatner, the man who brought Captain James T. Kirk to life. Now, in his later years, Shatner has spoken with rare honesty about those days, revealing a truth far different from the heroic adventures that captured the world's imagination. Shatner's life began in drama. Born in Montreal, Canada on March 22, 1931, during a record-breaking snowstorm, his arrival seemed destined to carry a sense of unpredictability. By age 8, he was already attending a children's acting school, and by 10, he was performing professionally in radio productions for CBC. His natural stage presence drew early praise, but while his talent grew, his academic path faltered. Though he studied economics at McGill University to appease his parents, he spent more time in the campus theater than in lecture halls. By the mid-1950s, he had moved to New York, chasing an acting career that took him from Broadway stages to American television. Appearances on shows like Alfred Hitchcock, Presence, and The Twilight Zone showcased his ability to portray characters on the edge of collapse, an intensity that would become central to his defining role as Captain Kirk. By 1965, Star Trek was still just an idea. The original pilot starred Jeffrey Hunter as Captain Pike, but NBC executives found it too cerebral. A second pilot was ordered, and when Hunter declined to return, producers turned to Shatner. Watching the rejected pilot, he thought the performances were too stiff. He envisioned a captain who was more approachable, more human. Drawing inspiration from naval hero Horatio Hornblower and the charisma of Alexander the Great, Shatner reimagined Kirk as a leader with confidence, humor, and heart. When Star Trek premiered in 1966, Kirk embodied the optimism of a turbulent decade, quickly becoming a cultural icon. But while the crew appeared united on screen, behind the cameras, battles raged. Shatner's ambition often clashed with his co-stars. Leonard Nimoy, whose character Spock became an unexpected fan favorite, found himself in direct conflict with Shatner. On one occasion, Shatner walked into Nimoy's shots repeatedly, 17 times in a single day, causing costly delays and nearly driving Nimoy off set. Writers grew frustrated too, as Shatner and Nimoy rewrote scenes late into the night, cutting other actors' lines in the process. By the third season, cast members joked bitterly that the show had become the Shatner-Nimoy Hour. Even groundbreaking moments, like the famous interracial kiss between Shatner and Nichelle Nichols, carried behind-the-scenes tension. Shatner, worried about backlash, filmed alternate takes without the kiss, but Nichols cleverly sabotaged them to ensure the historic scene would air. The show's grueling 16 to 22-hour filming days only heightened tempers. Exhaustion once drove Shatner himself to throw his script across the set and refuse to continue until given rest. The chaos on set mirrored the turmoil in his personal life. Shatner's first marriage to Canadian actress Gloria Rand began with promise in 1956, and together they had 3 daughters. But Star Trek consumed his time and energy. Between 1966 and 1969, he missed hundreds of family dinners, birthdays, and holidays. Gloria's patience eventually broke, and in 1969, just weeks after the show's cancellation, she filed for divorce. At the very moment his family fell apart, his career collapsed too. Typecast as Captain Kirk, Shatner struggled to find work. By the early 1970s, he was living out of a camper, taking whatever roles he could find in low-budget films, and even giving his children old Star Trek props as Christmas gifts because he couldn't afford presents. Then, in 1977, Star Wars reignited Hollywood's interest in space adventures, and Paramount revived Star Trek for the big screen. In 1979, Shatner returned as Captain Kirk in Star Trek. The motion picture, And while reviews were mixed, the box office success revived the franchise. Redemption truly arrived in 1982 with The Wrath of Khan, where a more vulnerable, aging Kirk resonated deeply with audiences. Shatner, once homeless, was suddenly back at the center of a cultural juggernaut. Through the 1980s, Shatner rebuilt his career, starring in T.J. Hooker and returning for multiple Star Trek films. Yet the old wounds with his co-stars never fully healed. George Takei and James Doohan openly criticized his domineering behavior, and though Shatner admitted insecurity drove much of it, his complicated relationship with Nimoy ended in estrangement before Nimoy's death in 2015, a regret that still haunts him. Later success on Boston Legal earned him Emmys, proving he could thrive beyond Starfleet. But the physical toll of his relentless drive left him with chronic pain, hearing loss, and arthritis. Now, at 93, William Shatner has spoken candidly about his journey. He admits to the fights, the sabotage, and the ego battles, acknowledging both his ambition and his failures. Behind the fearless Captain Kirk was a man struggling with insecurity, regret, and the crushing costs of fame. Shatner's story is not just one of stardom, but of survival. A reminder that even legends carry scars. The man who embodied courage on screen was, in truth, far more human.